Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
As you can see by the title of this week's episode, if you look at it next to last week's episode, you can see we're on a little bit of a theme, maybe a tiny bit, a couple weeks.
Yeah, we're on a roll here.
Yeah, we are on a roll.
Yeah.
Last episode, we talked about being storytellers. And this episode, we're talking about helping children to become music makers.
Yeah.
There are several different things that guide our understanding about the areas that you should have in an early childhood classroom, right? So there's the environmental rating scales, like the early childhood environmental rating scale, otherwise known as ECHRS, or the infant toddler rating scale, otherwise known as ITERS. We also have certain curriculums that tell us how the room should be set up. A prime example of that is the creative curriculum, because that curriculum was started based on room arrangement. So we have all these things telling us, and let's not forget the National Association for the Education of Young Children. NAEYC talks about this. And there are certain areas of a classroom that everybody has, right? Everybody's got the block area. Everybody's got the dramatic play area. Everybody's got the manipulatives, whatever you call it, the manipulatives area, the science area. They may have different names, but pretty much most programs have these areas. In my experience, one very neglected thing is the music area. And people freak out when I say you need to have a music and movement area in the classroom, because they think it's going to be so loud and so outrageous, and it's going to just derail anything that they're going to do. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true.
Right. I think that's what most people think is like, oh, great. It's just going to be loud. It's going to be loud. It might be loud. It might get loud, but not in a bad way.
And you don't have to put out your loudest instruments. You don't have to have 20 things of cymbals out there.
Yes.
We want to have an area where children can explore moving their bodies in different ways, the ways that they choose, making sound in the ways that they choose. Because music and movement are one of the creative arts. So when you think about the creative arts, there's the visual arts. That's your art area in your classroom.
Yeah.
There's the dramatic arts. That's your dramatic play area.
Yeah.
And then music and movement is also one of the arts. And it's like nowhere in a lot of classrooms.
Yeah. And I feel like if you do remember to put a music area in, like you put some cymbals and drums or whatever in there, I think the part that is neglected after that is the movement part of it.
Yeah.
Because, you got your instruments, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be dancing while they're playing these instruments. You need to put like something in there. And maybe different things. Like I used to put like scarves.
You put in scarves.
You
put in things that would inspire physical movement. And by the way, the instruments don't all have to be purchased instruments. I've been in classrooms where they have a music and movement area, and they have things like pots and wooden spoons, so that children can bang with the pots and wooden spoons and make sound. They have all sorts of whatever makes sound, can go over there.
Make the instruments with the children too, like those rain sticks out of like the tubes. Yeah, because I think the whole point of the music area is not necessarily about music; it's about sound, right? Too is like learning how these different objects create sound and how that sound can turn into music.
And it gives children another way to express themselves. There are some children who are more inclined and more attracted to the visual arts. And there are other children who love pretend play and the dramatic arts. Mm-hmm. And then we have this group of children who are more musically inclined that often don't get the chance to experience music that comes from their own thoughts and their own brains.
Yeah.
So, I know that you're all going to continue to sing songs with the children and teach children certain movements and songs that go together. And you should.
Yes.
We should teach children that, because when we do, we're ensuring that they get movement across all of their body, that they're fine-tuning certain things like fine motor, for example, that a song may allow a child to do in a fun way. That's all very important. Doing structured music and movement with you is very important. Equally important is the children's ability and the space for them to take their emotions, their thoughts, their ideas, and put that into practice through sound and movement. Yeah. I think about some of the great music and movement people like Debbie Allen. You can pretty much bet she was doing this from the time she was teeny tiny.
Yes. There's this, and I don't know if it's about Debbie Allen or if it's about, didn't I send you one? I should have sent it for you for this, because there is this story, and I don't know if it's Debbie Allen, but it's the woman who did the choreography for Cats.
How
she would always be moving around a lot in class. And so the principal was like, oh, there's something wrong with her. She won't stop moving. And then the mother was like, all right, I guess. Yeah. And then the mom took her somewhere where there was music, and the girl started dancing, and they said, no, there's nothing wrong with you. She's a dancer. Sign her up for dance class. And her mother signed her up for dance class, and look what happened. She's like the choreographer for Cats, and like,
there you go.
I think that sometimes the children, or even just the people in general who are more musically inclined or movement dance inclined, get kind of swept under the rug of like, oh, they move too much. They make too much noise, instead of like embracing it and be like, oh no, you're just a musician. You're a musician. Mm-hmm. Let's give you some different things. Let's see how we could tap into that creativity, instead of being like, stop being loud, stop moving, stop dancing. Like tap into it and be like, no, this is who you are. Okay, let's figure this out. Let's give you the things you need to move. How can you move with this scarf? These are different shoes. How do you dance in these shoes? Give it to them. Let them do it, because then they'll grow up to be something famous one day, maybe. Like these musicians that we listen to didn't start.
They started young, a lot of them. And at the very least, it will give some of the children an outlet for that energy, for those feelings, those emotions, those ideas, yes, in a way that's more appealing to them. And it sort of brings me back around. This brings me back around to people worry this is going to be such a chaotic, noisy thing. So here's my real life experience with it. My real life experience is that when you first bring things out like the instruments, things the children were not allowed to touch and explore freely, at first, they're just all about it. They're all gathering around this mystery laundry basket full of instruments that my teacher sometimes took out occasionally is now ours to explore. Yeah. So they get very excited in the beginning. It takes approximately 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, you'll see some of the children returning to blocks, and the other children returning to dramatic play, and the other children, some more returning to art, and some more returning to library. And they tend to go back to what they were originally attracted to because of who they are and where their talents and preferences lie. Yeah. So you're not going to get like it's forever and always going to be everybody over there making noise. They're going to funnel back to where they're most comfortable. And again, it takes about 2 weeks. I encouraged a teacher one time in a program to do this, and she was like, all right, I'm going to try it because other ideas you've had have worked. But this sounds to me like nothing but chaos. And I said to her, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is all I'm asking for, because you're going to see that most of the children start to disperse around the room again during free play time. Yeah. So I went back the next month and I said, and she still had stuff out for the children to make instruments and make noise and all that, and a space with a carpet where they could move. And I said, hey, you still have it out. That's great. And she said, you were right. 2 weeks. She said, she said it was within about a week and a half that I started to notice, oh, so-and-so is making his way back to those blocks that he loves, or or another child is making their way back to the library where they always sit. She said, I started to notice it a little at a time, but by 2 weeks, I had maybe 1 or 2 children still over there. And it's because it's the children who are more musically inclined that are going to stay over there. Think about yourselves. I am not an athlete. I'm not athletically inclined. Yeah. So you might give me something to do, and I think, oh, that might be kind of cool. Like, I don't know, a treadmill in my home, and then it takes like how many weeks until I go, I'm going back to reading the books I enjoy.
Yes.
I'm going back to my jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long for you to want to return to the things you're most comfortable with. So take heart.
Yes.
I also want to share, we had talked about sharing quotes, and Alison has a really great quote. So as we continue to talk about this, I want to have Alison share her quote that relates to what we're saying.
Okay. So it is, a bird does not sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. And it's a Chinese proverb. Which I think is so
of these
true.
Children, right?
Yeah.
How many of these children have a song?
Yeah.
But we wouldn't know it unless we give them the opportunity to do it and express it.
Right. That's exactly right. You know, like, how are they going to discover? Because for me, like when you were saying like, oh, I went back to my book and I went back to my jigsaw puzzle, because you have learned that that's what you like to do, but it's what relaxes you, right? Like I read a lot of books because it relaxes me. I watch a lot of TV. It relaxes me, right? Exercise, not so much. Okay. So if you're going to force me into that, you know, fine. But I'm always going to revert back to what interests me and what relaxes me. And it's the same thing with music. Those children, there's people out there that like, you know what, when I have a lot of emotion, I need to be either immersed in music, or I need to go play the drums, or I need to go play my instrument, because that relaxes them. And when you take that away and you don't have an area for those children who need music to relax or to calm themselves or to self-soothe, then what? You know, you're taking it away from that. Like, that's what you need. They need to express themselves that way in order to work through whatever they need to work through. And when that area is not there, they have nowhere to go. You know, like if you told me like, Alison, for a whole week, you can't drink hot tea or read a book, I'd be like, what? I wouldn't know what to do. I would not know what to do. I would not be a calm person at all. I would be right back to having anxiety, because I know that's what I need. So
you know what strikes me? Something just struck me. I often talk, I can make up a song like that, right? Yeah. I'm not any kind of songwriter, folks. I'm making up like simple little ditties.
Yeah.
You know, cleaning my parakeets cage and making up some simple little ditty about them.
Yeah.
And I always tell people it's the great talent of an early childhood professional that we can go into any situation and just come up with a little ditty to the tune of like London Bridges.
Yeah.
To the tune of another song. I can come up with a little ditty about it. And we always talk about how it's one of our great talents. And I think that early childhood professionals, teachers, teacher assistants, whoever, we're consistently making up songs. I find that to be true. And so why do we resist the children doing the same thing? And, it's true. And whether it's with words or with sound.
Yeah.
We really need to give them that outlet too. They see us do it. I know that there are children out there who watched me just make up a song off the top of my head. It wasn't good. It could never be recorded. But it was entertaining enough for that moment with those children.
Yes. And I think it teaches them like, oh wait, I can write my own songs. Yes. I can make up my own song. I don't just have to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. I could make up my own song. I can make up my own words to Mary Had a Little Lamb, or I can just make up my own rhythm and song. And that's how kids grow up to become songwriters. You know, like that's just
and
by
even if they never do.
And even if they never do,
so what? It's a creative outlet for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have children in that room who need to move. You know it.
Yes.
Give them another space to move. Give them that, instead of running around during free playtime, knocking everybody's blocks over, give them a space in the classroom where they can make noise with either instruments or something like pots and wooden spoons, and they can move their bodies in a place where they're not disturbing the children who are trying to build with blocks or Legos or looking at books. This has its own section. And I'm just going to advocate for this. Taking the laundry basket of instruments out of the closet and simply plopping it in the classroom is not enough. The children need to know this is the area for this. This is the space where we can use these instruments and move our bodies.
They need a separate space, because I was just thinking when you were saying that, how many teachers I've seen, they put the musical instruments on a shelf in the dramatic play area thinking, oh, it's all the same. You know, and it's not. And it's not fair to the children who want to play dramatic play that there might be somebody over there playing drums or whatever. And it's not fair to the child who wants to make music to have to be in this other area. Like, dedicating an entire section of your room to it shows the children how important this is. You know, it shows that I respect you if you want to go make some music and figure out the sounds and like dance around. Like, you have space to do this now. If you throw scarves into your dramatic play thinking, oh, they'll just move when they want to move, but you're not giving them the space to move. You're giving them the object, but you're not giving them the space. They need the space too.
Well, my experience is that sometimes teachers will take out those instruments and put them either, like you're saying, in the dramatic play area or near the block area, because those are noisy areas. The music and movement area is also a noisy area. And yes, it belongs near dramatic play and blocks. Near it. But what a lot of people do is they just take the box of instruments and plop it at the end of one of those areas. We need to intentionally plan for this, is what I'm saying. We need to, when we're thinking about our space, intentionally plan. And I know some of you work in very, very small spaces. Here's what the environmental rating scales say. Let's say you have your 60 minutes of free playtime. And if you're wondering why 60 minutes, go back in this podcast and look for episodes about free playtime. So you have your 60 minutes of free playtime. If the children, you can use one area in two different ways during that 60 minutes. So let's say you decide, we're going to have, and I'm just using an example, we're going to have the art area open in the beginning of free playtime, and there's nobody over there. The children decide to do all different things. You have to leave it open for approximately 30 minutes, and then you can repurpose the area. So you can decide, okay, nobody came over here. I'm going to bring this other thing over here. You can decide that. You also hopefully have furniture that can be moved. Shelves on wheels, right? Where you can move things and go, okay, I'm going to make nobody's over in this area today. So what I'm going to do is, or people have left this area. So what I'm going to do is just take out those instruments and move this shelf a little bit and make room in this area so that children can do this here now. You can do that.
And I, in my experience, if you start moving furniture around and you make it different, it entices the children to be like, what's she doing? Maybe that's something I'm interested in and I want to do. You know, whereas before, when it was in a small corner of an area, maybe it wasn't as interesting to them. But now they're like, you're intriguing them. Oh, wow, wait, she's doing something. I want to know why.
So then they want to come over and explore it. So here's what we want you to do, everybody. Get some things that make noise. They don't only have to be instruments. It can include instruments, but it can be other things that make noise. You know, empty tissue boxes make great drums. You know, that sort of thing. Have children make instruments with you. Do things like the rain sticks and all. Gather things, and now look around your space and decide how you can make space for this in some way. And if you are a family of an early learner, I hope that, you know, you've seen children pretend and you now understand, oh, also this form of the arts, this dance and music or movement music is also very important. And you make space for that at home too. Okay, folks, I think this is the end of our being streak, being storytellers, being music makers. We're going to do something else next time.
Say for now. You never know when we'll bring something back.
That's very true. That's very true. Okay, preschool peeps, go, and I hope you're inspired to add creative music to your spaces, and we will catch you next time.
Bye, peeps.